My name is Avery Collins. I'm 33 years old. And until 3 weeks ago, I was engaged to be married. 5 years together, 8 months engaged, 6 weeks away from a wedding that everyone around us assumed was inevitable. I thought I knew the man I was going to marry. I thought we were building something solid, adult, stable, earned. I was wrong. The problem didn't start with a fight. It didn't start loudly. It started quietly, the way most dangerous things do, disguised as concern, masked as stress, justified by temporary circumstances. About 4 months ago, right after we sent out the wedding invitations, Evan changed. At first, it looked harmless. He became particular. Every decision had to go through him. The flowers, the music, the seating chart. I didn't push back. I told myself this was normal. Weddings are stressful. Everyone says that. He'd always been detail-oriented, organized, structured. I thought this was just that part of him turning up the volume. But it didn't stop there. It bled into everything else. What I wore on weekends, where I went after work, who I talked to on the phone. He started making comments about my friends, how some of them were bad influences, how others didn't really support our relationship. My sister suddenly became too involved. My job became a distraction. He'd call me at lunch. "What are you eating? Who's with you? Why didn't you mention you were going out?" He checked my phone location. Once he asked why I took a different route home. I laughed it off at first, told myself he was anxious, that once the wedding was over, once the pressure lifted, we'd go back to normal. Back to the man I fell in love with. Spontaneous, warm, the one who used to surprise me with late-night drives and terrible diner food. But things didn't go back to normal. They got worse. The breaking point came on a Saturday afternoon. We were supposed to have lunch with his parents to finalize wedding details, head count, menu selections, seating logistics. I'd been working late for weeks, trying to finish a major project before the wedding, so I could actually enjoy our honeymoon without deadlines hanging over my head. 4 hours of sleep a night, for 2 weeks straight. By Saturday morning, I was barely functional. My eyes burned, my head throbbed, everything felt foggy, delayed. When my alarm went off at 9:02 a.m., I turned to Evan and told him I needed to skip lunch. Just this once. "I need sleep," I said. "I'm exhausted. We can reschedule." He was in the bathroom doing his hair. He stopped mid-motion, met my eyes through the mirror. "You're not skipping," he said flatly. "My parents are expecting you." "I know," I said, "but I'm running on fumes. They'll understand." He turned around slowly. "No, you're coming." "So is my health not important?" I asked. "I'm barely functioning." That's when he stepped closer. His voice dropped. "If you don't do what I say," he said, "the wedding is canceled." I stared at him, really looked at him, and suddenly everything snapped into focus. This wasn't about lunch. This wasn't about his parents. This was about power, about testing how far he could push me, about seeing whether I'd bend even when it hurt. And something inside me didn't break. It clicked. I realized that if I gave in now, it would never stop. Today it was lunch. Tomorrow it would be where we lived. Then my job, my friends, my life. I smiled, calmly, quietly. "Consider it canceled." His face drained of color. "What?" he asked. "You heard me," I said. "If that's how you handle disagreements, we're done." "You don't mean that," he said quickly. "You're just tired." "I absolutely mean it," I replied. "I'm tired of being controlled." He reached for my arm. "Wait, let's talk." I pulled away, grabbed my keys, and walked out. I didn't have a plan when I left. That's the part people don't understand when they hear the story later. They assume I walked out with a suitcase and a speech prepared, like some movie heroine with perfect eyeliner and a measured exit line. No, I walked out with my keys in one hand and my phone in the other, my heart pounding so hard it made my ears ring. I drove on autopilot, past the grocery store we always went to, past the park where Evan used to jog, past the intersection where we'd argued once about where to put the Christmas tree. Everything looked the same, and yet my life felt like it had split down the middle. 20 minutes later, I pulled into a diner parking lot like my body had chosen it for me. A place bright enough to make me feel less alone, public enough to keep me safe, ordinary enough to keep me from unraveling. I slid into a booth by the window. A waitress brought coffee I didn't drink. My hands were shaking, not with fear exactly, but with that dangerous kind of adrenaline that comes right after you do something irreversible. 5 years, 8 months engaged. And I just ended it because of lunch plans. Except it wasn't lunch plans. It was every controlling moment I'd swallowed and called stress. Every time he'd made me doubt myself and then smirked like my doubt proved him right. Every time he'd framed his demands as love. My phone buzzed. One text, then another, Then it started to ring. Evan. I stared at his name on the screen and didn't answer. Instead, I did the one thing I'd been putting off for weeks, the thing my instincts had been screaming for every time he made a small comment about my money or my time. I called my lawyer. Jordan Pierce was a friend from college. He did family law, divorces, custody disputes, protective orders, the kind of work that teaches you what people become when they're scared of losing control. He picked up on the second ring. Avery, he said, everything okay? No, I said. My voice surprised me. It sounded steady, too steady, like it belonged to someone else. I need help. Can you meet me today? It's urgent. There was a pause. Then Jordan's tone shifted. That professional calm that makes you feel like the ground is finally solid under your feet. What happened? I ended my engagement, I said, and I need to protect myself, legally, financially. Another pause, shorter this time. Come to my office, Gus, he said. I'll meet you there in an hour. When I arrived, Jordan already had coffee waiting and a legal pad full of notes, like he'd been expecting this call for years. He didn't waste time on sympathy. He asked questions, direct ones. When did the control start? Any threats? Any financial entanglements? Do you share accounts? Have you documented anything? I told him everything. The escalation over the last 4 months. The monitoring, the way Evan started suggesting I spend less time with my friends, the way he'd scroll through my phone like it was his right. And then I told him the thing I'd been avoiding saying out loud, the thing that had been sitting in my chest like a stone. He opened a credit card, I said quietly, in both our names, without telling me. Jordan's pen froze. He looked up slowly. When? 2 months ago, I swallowed. I found the statements last week. How much? He asked. I exhaled like the number itself could bruise me again. Almost 20,000. Jordan didn't react the way most people do. He didn't gasp, didn't curse. He just wrote it down with the calm precision of someone who's seen this exact story unfold 100 times. What was it for? He asked. Wedding upgrades, I said bitterly. Venue add-ons, designer alterations, a videographer we didn't need, upgraded catering, stupid things we never agreed on. And he told you what? Jordan asked. He told me he was using his savings, I said. And when I confronted him, he said it didn't matter because it was our wedding and our credit, like I was being cheap for even asking. Jordan's jaw tightened slightly. Do you have proof? He asked. Statements, emails. I forwarded them to myself, I said. And I hesitated, then added, I have texts where I told him we needed to stick to the budget. He ignored me. Jordan nodded once. Good, he said. That's not just irresponsible, that's potentially fraud. The word landed heavy. Fraud. It made everything feel darker, not just controlling, but predatory. Jordan leaned forward. Did you sign anything for that card? He asked. No, I said. I never authorized it. Okay, he said. Then we move like he's dangerous. Because he is. My throat tightened. Jordan slid a paper toward me. First, he said, you're not going back to the apartment alone. Second, you don't respond to him. Third, you document everything. And fourth, he tapped the paper with his pen. We draft an exit so clean it leaves him nothing to twist. We spent 3 hours working. Jordan drafted a formal termination of the engagement, a financial separation agreement stating I was not responsible for any debts incurred without my explicit consent, a demand for a full accounting of wedding deposits and payments, a cease and contact warning letter ready to escalate if Evan harassed me, and instructions for documenting every message, voicemail, and attempt to contact me. It was surreal, watching my relationship get reduced to legal language. But it was also relieving, because for the first time in months, I wasn't trying to negotiate with someone who kept moving the goalposts. I was drawing a line in ink. By the time I left Jordan's office, it was evening. He handed me a thick envelope already labeled and sealed. This goes to him Monday morning, he said. Courier delivery, signature confirmation. We want proof he received it. I nodded, my brain strangely calm. What do I do tonight? I asked. Jordan's gaze softened. You sleep, he said, and you don't go home. I checked into a hotel that night. Nothing fancy, just clean sheets, a lock on the door, and a quiet that felt unfamiliar. I turned off my phone, ordered room service I barely tasted, took a long, scalding shower that felt like I was trying to wash the last 4 months off my skin. And when I finally laid down, I slept. 12 hours. No nightmares, no waking up to his voice, no flinching at notifications. Just darkness, just silence, just rest. Sunday morning, I turned my phone back on. The screen lit up like a bomb. 83 missed calls, over 100 text messages, all from Evan. I scrolled, and the progression was exactly what Jordan would have predicted. First, apologetic. I didn't mean it. Please come home. We need to talk. Then confused. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? This is childish. Then angry. You're being ridiculous. Grow up and come back. You're ruining everything. Then desperate. I love you. Don't throw away 5 years. We can fix this. Then manipulative. My mom thinks you're having a breakdown. Do you need help? And finally, the part that made my blood go cold. Threatening. If you don't come back by tonight, you'll regret this. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You abandoned me. I didn't respond. I took screenshots of every threat, every implication, every shift from love to punishment, and I forwarded them to Jordan with 2 words. Add these. Jordan replied almost immediately. Good. This strengthens your file. Do not engage. Monday morning, I arranged the courier. I watched the tracking like it was a countdown. At 10:47 a.m., the courier texted, package delivered and signed for. I didn't even have time to exhale. At 10:52 a.m., my phone started ringing. Evan. I declined. He called again. Declined. Again. And again. 16 calls in 10 minutes. Then the voicemail notifications began to stack like bricks. I didn't listen yet. I didn't have to. Because I already knew. When someone like Evan loses control, he doesn't suddenly become understanding. He becomes louder. He becomes crueler. He becomes desperate enough to burn everything down, as long as he gets to watch you choke on the smoke. And I was sitting on the edge of a hotel bed, staring at my phone, realizing something that made my stomach drop. The ultimatum he gave me was never meant to be a choice. It was meant to be a leash. I listened to the voicemails that night, not because I wanted to, but because Jordan told me I needed to document everything, and documentation meant knowing exactly what I was dealing with. The first message was disbelief wrapped in rage. What is this? Evan demanded. You can't be serious. Call me back right now. The next was sharper. This is insane. We're getting married in 6 weeks. You don't get to just walk away like this. Then came the pivot, the familiar one. If you think I'm signing anything, you're out of your mind. My lawyer is going to destroy you. The word destroy echoed long after the message ended. I saved every voicemail, forwarded them to Jordan. By noon the next day, the calls weren't just from Evan anymore. His mother, his father, his sister, friends I hadn't spoken to in months. They all left messages that sounded eerily rehearsed. He's devastated. You're overreacting. Relationships take work. You need to fix this. I didn't answer any of them. At 2 o'clock, Jordan called. He contacted my office, Jordan said, screaming, threatening to sue everyone in the building. I closed my eyes. And I told him if he contacts me again without representation, I'm filing a harassment complaint, Jordan said calmly. He's panicking. Good, I said. There was a pause. He knows he's exposed, Jordan continued. That credit card has him scared. He thought you'd cave before it mattered. I hung up feeling something unfamiliar. Not guilt. Relief. That evening, someone started pounding on my hotel door. Hard. Relentless. I froze. Checked the peephole. Evan. I know you're in there, he yelled. Open the door. We need to talk. My heart slammed into my ribs. I didn't respond. I picked up the phone and called the front desk. There's someone banging on my door, I said quietly. I need security. They arrived within minutes. I heard raised voices in the hallway. Evan crying, pleading, then shouting. Security told him to leave or they'd call the police. He left. I filed a police report anyway. Paper trail. Jordan had drilled it into me. Patterns matter, he'd said, and you're already seeing one. The next few days were chaos. Evan tried contacting me everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I blocked him. He made new accounts. Blocked those too. Emails started coming in. Long, rambling messages swinging wildly between apology and blame. I set up a filter. Everything from him went into a folder labeled evidence. I didn't read them. He started reaching out to mutual friends. Some of them called me confused. He doesn't understand what happened, one said. He says you blindsided him. I told them the truth. Not emotionally. Factually. I showed a few of them screenshots. The threats, the financial statements, the timeline. Most backed off immediately. A few didn't. A few said I was being harsh. I cut them out. Then, about a week after the envelope was delivered, Jordan forwarded me a letter. It was from Evan's lawyer. They claimed I was liable for half the wedding expenses, including the credit card charges, because we were engaged and had a verbal agreement to share costs. Jordan didn't even blink. He responded with copies of the credit card statements showing unauthorized charges, screenshots of texts where I'd explicitly stated budget limits, a timeline showing Evan opened the card without my consent, Their lawyer went silent. A few days later, Evan started posting on social media. Nothing direct, just vague, passive-aggressive posts. When you realize the person you loved was never who they said they were, sometimes the trash takes itself out. His friends flooded the comments with support. People I barely knew reached out asking what happened. I didn't respond publicly, but privately, the truth started spreading. Not as drama, as pattern. And patterns don't stay hidden forever. 2 weeks after the breakup, I got a message from someone I didn't know. A woman named Lauren. She said she'd been engaged to Evan's older brother 2 years ago. She wanted to talk. We spoke on the phone that night. Her story made my skin crawl. Everything had been fine, until Evan got involved. He kept telling my fiancé I wasn't right for the family, she said. That he was settling, that I was holding him back. The engagement fell apart. He isolated me, she continued. Controlled conversations, made me feel unstable. I thought I was losing my mind. My chest tightened. The ultimatums, the monitoring, the financial manipulation. It was all there. She has a pattern, Lauren said quietly. I just wanted you to know you're not crazy. After we hung up, I sat in silence. This wasn't wedding stress. This wasn't a phase. This was who Evan was. 3 weeks after I walked out, Evan finally signed the financial separation agreement. His lawyer advised him he had no choice. The debt was in his name. The charges were unauthorized. He was liable. The signed documents arrived through Jordan's office. No note, no apology, just a signature. But separately, he sent a handwritten letter. I read it once. You destroyed everything. You threw away 5 years because you couldn't handle one fight. You're a coward. You'll regret this forever. I felt nothing. I threw it away. That same week, Evan officially called off the wedding. He sent messages to the guests blaming me, saying I'd abandoned him. Some people believed him. Most didn't, especially after friends started quietly sharing their own experiences, his jealousy, his temper, his need for control. A few days later, his father called. He wanted to meet. I agreed, on one condition. Public place. With my lawyer present. We met at a coffee shop. He looked exhausted. I owe you an apology, he said. I waited. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten, he continued. We thought his intensity was confidence. And now? I asked. Now we see it, he admitted. We've convinced him to see a therapist. That's good, I said honestly. He hesitated. Is there any chance? No, I said gently. There isn't. He nodded. Didn't argue. For what it's worth, he said, standing to leave. You were good to him. Better than he deserved. He paid and walked out. I sat there, staring into my coffee, realizing something quietly powerful. I hadn't lost a future. I'd escaped one. The rumors reached me before the silence did. About a month after everything collapsed, a mutual friend sent me a message. He's seeing someone new, she wrote, already. Met her online. I stared at the screen longer than I expected to, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed something I'd already known. He didn't miss me. He missed control. A week later, the same friend followed up. It's already bad, she said. He tells her what to order, checks her phone, corrects her in public. I exhaled slowly. That's his problem, I said out loud to an empty room. And it was. 6 weeks after the breakup, Evan tried to reach out again. An email. The subject line read, Closure. It was long, rambling, filled with therapy language and vague accountability. He said he was working on himself, that he understood his patterns, that he wanted a final conversation for healing. I read it once. Then I closed it. Jordan had warned me. Any response he'd said is an invitation. Silence was the boundary. Around the same time, I heard through the same channels that Evan had been telling people I was emotionally abusive, that I manipulated him, that I blindsided him. A few of his friends reached out, hesitant but curious. I sent them the same evidence I'd shown others. The threats, the voicemails, the financial documents. Most of them stopped speaking to him after that. Then his new relationship imploded. The man had done some digging, heard the stories. He ended it immediately. When Evan showed up at his apartment begging for another chance, the police were threatened. The pattern repeated itself. Without me. 5 months have passed since that Saturday morning. Since the ultimatum. Since I smiled and said consider it canceled and walked away from the life I was supposed to want. I moved into a new apartment 2 months ago. Smaller. Quieter. Mine. I went back to the old place once, with Jordan and a police escort, to collect my belongings. Evan wasn't there. His mother was. She glared at me like I'd committed a crime. I didn't react. I took what was mine, left the keys, and never looked back. I changed my phone number, updated my email, locked down my social media. I started over. I've been dating casually. Nothing serious. And for the first time in years, that feels like freedom instead of failure. I'm reconnecting with friends I lost, picking up hobbies I abandoned. One of them told me recently, "You're lighter. You smile more." I believe them. Evan's brother reached out a few weeks ago. He apologized for everything, told me he'd cut ties with his sibling. The woman Evan had driven away from him years ago? They reconnected. They're together again. "She ruined the best thing in my life once," he told me. "I'm not letting her do it again." Good. From what I've heard, Evan is struggling. Lost another job. Can't keep roommates. Burned through most of his friendships. His parents cut him off after he quit therapy. He declared bankruptcy 3 months after we broke up. Jordan told me I could pursue reimbursement. I chose not to. The price of freedom. People still ask me if I regret how I handled things. If I was too harsh. If I should have tried harder. I don't regret a single thing. That ultimatum was a gift. It showed me exactly who he was and who I would have become if I stayed. When he opened that envelope and saw my lawyer's signature on every page, he panicked. The calls started within minutes. The threats. The desperation. All too late. He wanted me to bend. Instead, I walked away. I called his bluff. And he was holding nothing. I'm not engaged anymore. I'm not planning a wedding. But I'm happy. Not the performative happiness I used to fake. Real happiness. The kind that comes from living without fear. From making your own choices. From knowing no one gets to threaten your future just to control your present. That envelope. That signature. That moment when he realized I was serious. That was the moment I got my life back. And I'm never giving it away again.